Disclaimer. Judge Ron Rangel is providing this podcast and website for educational purposes only, as well as to give the public general information regarding topics related to the criminal justice system. The views, thoughts, and opinions of his guest speakers are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Judge Rangel. All rise. You are now listening to Beyond the Gavel with Judge Ron Rangel, educating the public and expanding mindsets. Subscribe on our website, beyondthegavelpodcast.com, or your favorite podcast platform for more of the latest podcast episodes and updates.
Welcome to Beyond the Gavel with Judge Ron Rangel. I am your host. I'm really excited to speak to you today. Get away from the politics, get away from the courthouse scene. I've noticed as I go around and communicate with folks, people are telling me, Ron, you look like you're losing weight. A compliment I'll definitely take. In fact, I heard it just a couple of minutes ago as we were going to start this particular podcast episode. My dad passed away, and I've talked about this quite a bit, I think, on this podcast. Well, my dad passed away a couple of years ago, 2 years ago and something like 3 months. And when my dad was getting ill, when he physically started to deteriorate, I had a lot of conversations with him. One of them was related to, Dad, you know, I'm a 50-plus-year-old man. What kind of advice do you have for me? What lasting words would you like for me to walk away from our conversations? And he very quickly told me the most important thing to take care of is your health. Regardless of its mental health, physical health, without your health, it doesn't matter where you get in life, it doesn't matter how successful you think that you are, without good health, you're never going to be anybody. You're always going to have issues. And he said that because when I was very young, he had a series of strokes. He was actually a disabled person throughout the course of his life. Most of his adult life, he didn't have the ability to be physical in a lot of ways. And so as a result of that, you know, that's when we started trying to make sure that he could support himself in a way that didn't require so much of his physicality because of that series of strokes that he had had. And I could get into the stories with my dad. The point is, it's been about 2 years, actually, now that I think of it, since my dad passed, I decided to really take his advice into fruition. I decided to really live up to what he taught me. And so I've gone out of my way to eat right. I've gone out of my way to exercise as much as I can. There are some weeks I almost exercise every day, and others maybe about half the week. But the point is, I'm always focused on that. And the idea is, you've got to give yourself at least 1 hour a day of time. And I'm feeling good physically, but I know that I wouldn't have as much of a positive outlook on it if I did not take my dad's advice to heed, which goes to another point. Part of the happiness quotient is to find a good mentor. My dad was one of my mentors. He was an excellent mentor. And so part of why I teach, I think, is to be inspired by our youth. I started class at the University of Texas, San Antonio, which actually kind of changed its name now that it's incorporated into the UT Health Science system. But I had my first student come in today, this semester. I require all my students to come in and observe court. And I'm always struck on how much inspiration, how much energy, how uplifting they are for me personally. That's just something that I think truly is a big part of being a happy person. Take care of your health. Just some thoughts for today. And I think it's important today because we have a guest. Our guest today is somebody who is a judge, but he has to be a mentor at the same time. We're dealing with specialty courts. We're dealing with a very special, important person in our system here in Bexar County, Judge Ernie Glenn. Ernie, it's great to see you.
Well, it's great to be here, Ron.
I'm very happy that we've had this opportunity to come together and have this conversation on the podcast. I want folks to know a little bit about you. I want them to know the perspective as to where you're coming from. So give us a little bit of an idea as to who you are, how you got to this position, the jobs that you've had before you became our felony drug court judge in Bexar County.
How far back do you want me to go?
It's up to you. It's up to you.
Because if you saw where I came from, you would never expect me to be where I am today, having grown up in East Texas, where one of our prime time activities was hunting squirrels with a trained squirrel dog. And that was dinner quite often, sometimes lunch, or at least part of it, depending upon where we were at the time. But it seems like an unlikely place for someone to come from and become what I am doing at this point in life. But the good thing is I grew up with a good, solid family, and we sat around the table, had dinner together. We were always pretty close. We did all kinds of things together. It was a much different time than it is now, of course. Obviously, we didn't have things like social media that tends to grab a lot of people's attention nowadays. We didn't have the technology that's out there, no cell phones, no computers, none of that stuff was.
You kind of grew up isolated, right?
Yeah, it's sort of.
Yeah, I had that same experience growing up in Portland, Texas. Yeah.
Okay. I know where you're from.
Yeah.
And small town too. I didn't actually grow up in town. I grew up in a sawmill community, and it was a relatively small area, but surrounded by family, aunts, uncles, cousins. I mean, we were all kind of part of this one little community, and all pretty much went to the same high school in a little town called Cleveland, Texas.
I've heard of Cleveland.
High school, but elementary school, everything in Cleveland, Texas.
So that's how Portland was, right? Small town. My grandfather was born there. My mom was born there, right? A lot of family. We're blessed to have a lot of family in a small town, I think.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It is. I wish everybody could grow up like that. Small town. Growing up in the country, we had about 1 million acres of national forest back behind our house.
Oh,
that
wow.
we could go roam through and do
beautiful.
things. It was very safe. But, going through that, seeing different things, working at the sawmill, stacking lumber, sweating really hard in the summertime and doing different things. I even did a summer gig roughnecking one time in Louisiana. When I was doing my junior and senior year in high school. And if I didn't know already, I knew at that point I was definitely going to college.
Yes.
And I was going to have a different type of job than that.
Yes.
But it was also in that last year that civics teacher, Mr. Roden, don't recall it, I think it was Harold, but maybe not, but really nice guy. Got me really interested in the Constitution and law and some things. And he made this comment that he had always wanted one of his students to go to law school and become a lawyer and do something with themselves. And that struck me. And but besides the fact that I just loved the way the Constitution worked, just reading through it and thinking, how did these men that got together way back when come up with all these rules, all these things that are still working today?
To create a government, right?
Yeah, to create a government, a different type of government than had ever really been done before the way they did it. So after that, I said, okay, I'm going to law school. And of course, college makes you go through an undergraduate degree first to get there. So I kind of went and started signing up, said, well, what do I want to be? And I asked a couple of advisors, and they said, well, a lot of people that go to law school tend to focus on political science. Some do business things, and sat and looked at some of the course names and said, yeah, I think I'll try political science. I'll make that my major.
Yes. And the reality of it is we know, right? I tell my students, it doesn't matter what you get a degree in. As long as you get a degree if you want to go to law school. I got a friend of mine that got a music degree, focused on guitar, and he's a great lawyer now.
And probably a great guitarist.
And a great guitarist, yeah.
I think that was great to be able to get that type of well-rounded education. I even signed up for and took a course in genetics that was way above my level.
Back in the day, genetics.
Yeah, I remember very well one of the early classes, the professor told us that, we've been dealing with diseases that are based on bacteria and viruses and things like that, and we've come up with some ways, maybe not to completely eradicate them, but at least to control them and have healthier lives. That he was saying the coming frontier is we're going to be able to diagnose and treat and cure genetic diseses. And everybody was kind of quiet and kind of thought about that for a second. How are you going to do that? There was no gene sequencing back then. So, but there was already the idea that this was coming. Now, this is back in 1976 or 7 when I took that particular course.
You were in college.
Exactly.
Did you wear bell bottoms?
Duh.
I did too. In the 70s, I did too.
all these things that are coming back. Have you seen this trend lately with these jeans people are wearing? They have these gigantic legs.
Yes.
They really bell out.
Yes.
Well, that was a fad back when I started law school.
And it looks great.
77.
I got to buy some of those pants.
Yeah, they were pretty cool. I had a pair.
Yeah. I think the era of skinny jeans is over.
Oh no, it'll be back. I mean, these things come in cycles.
Yes.
You know, if you've been around a while, you get to see these cycles.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I went to law school, got my law degree from the University of Houston Bates College of Law. Let's see, I met my wife in undergraduate school. We got engaged in that doesn't matter. We got married in 1978. It's what really matters. And we were both in graduate school.
Yeah.
And I finished law school in December of 1979. She finished grad school and master's degree in Spanish literature in spring 1980. A couple of months later, we discovered that we were going to have a baby. I passed the bar. I was informed that I would have a job in San Antonio with the district attorney's office if we moved there, which we were planning on doing.
Good.
Anyway, so we came here and started working in the district attorney's office on June 2nd, 1980.
Very nice.
And this is where my journey into working with people with special needs starts.
Yes.
Because my first assignment had two parts to it. One, I was doing misdemeanor intake, which was reviewing all the misdemeanor cases that came in, dictating the complaints for them, and the other part of my job was dealing with the mental health docket. And
so they had a mental health docket in 1980.
Right.
Specialty courts came about probably, there's a guess, 1972-ish. California was the first specialty court. So something brand new back in those days.
Well, it was statutory. Judge T. Armour Ball was the probate judge that handled that docket. And it's incredible that all we could do at that time, or all we were doing at that time, was following the letter of the law.
Yes.
And because that was totally ineffective. What would happen is a person would be acting out somewhat, a danger to himself or others, out on the streets, going through a mental breakdown. He would be picked up, he or she, taken out to the state hospital. They would medicate them. They would get them stable, which took about 2 weeks to get them really stable on the medications in most cases. And then we would have to have a hearing on it because we're now told that this person is no longer dangerous to himself or others, which was one of the prongs, and besides it being mentally ill, but one of the prongs of keeping them out there. We also dealt with people with substance use disorders and had commitments for them. But so what would happen? Get them out there, 2 weeks, maybe 3. They are stable, doing really well, and guess what? Illegally, we have to release them. And there's no follow-up program to send them to. It's just release them back on the street.
There's no aftercare type thing in those days.
No aftercare.
Yeah.
So I got to know certain people very well because I would see them once a month being recommitted and going back through these hearings. And it was it was really a revolving door.
Yes.
And after doing that for a while, I realized we're not accomplishing anything here. So not really. I mean, we're taking the load off of the families for about 2 weeks.
That's it.
But after that, they're released, and then they're probably good for a few days before they start decompensating because nobody's making them take their medications.
Because what's going on is they're forcing them in a sense to whatever the issues are, they're forcing them to come to competency in whatever way, whatever capacity.
Right.
But once they get to that point, then they just completely forget about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good that we were doing something, but it wasn't good that there was no follow-up that was going to continue the gains that we had gotten from the commitments that we were doing.
Right.
So, I was 25 years old at the time, and
wow,
I actually realized that, and I realized that this was not working, and that there's got to be a better way. And then I was moved out to a trial court and started trying some cases. Usually start with DWIs. I became the assistant chief of the misdemeanor section. Then I got promoted up to felony and started trying the burglaries and robberies and all the way through a couple of capital murder cases. And after doing that for 5 years, I was starting to feel a little bit burned out because I was trying so many cases at that time. It was pretty much every week I was in trial. After a while, you kind of get to this point where I got to look at doing something else. So I left to go into private practice and started off with a civil firm for 1 year. A couple other guys. One of them came from a firm called Thornton and Summers, which is morphed into something else now. And we had some pretty good cases. I tried a couple of personal injury cases. Loved trying those civil cases. They were so easy. You have to meet a prosecutor. He said, you mean all I have to do is prove, by the greater weight of the credible testimony, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt anymore? This is easy.
And that's for folks who don't know, Thornton and Summers was huge. Very, very impressive law firm back in the day.
Yeah, I tried my first personal injury case against an attorney at Thornton and Summers and actually won. So I thought I said, this is...
You're in.
I thought maybe I should keep doing this until you get into the bigger money. But I realized I actually liked my criminal cases better.
Mm-hmm. Can't blame you.
Learned to do some divorces too, and I split off from them after a year and went into a practice of my own, basically, officing with some other attorneys, but doing my own thing and developing my practice where I was doing some personal injury. That was basically pretty easy money, but not anything big. And I was doing some divorce cases, but mostly it was criminal law. But as I got more and more into criminal law, I started representing a lot of people with drug issues, a lot of alcoholic. I mean, DWIs are big in San Antonio, so you're going to have a lot of those. I started paying attention to what's going on with some of the clients, and the more and more I did it, the more I wanted to see is there's something better that we can do. And I was a couple times approached by a Catholic priest, Father Brosnan, who was running a group called the Patrician Movement at the time.
I remember the Patrician Movement, yeah.
Yeah. They were basically the only game in town when it came to real treatment.
That's right.
Or something that resembled real treatment. And Father Brosnan would always talk about, get these people into treatment. We can help them do things differently. We can give them counseling, help them change their lives, and get some of them off the streets. And I said, he said, I've seen some people who have been through this, and some of them I still see going into the system. He said, well, we're not going to solve everybody's problem, but we'll get a few of them.
Yes.
I mean, some of them will get something out of it that will make a difference. So that kind of stuck with me, too. I got to know Mary Roman really well. She was judge of the 175th.
That's right.
And I actually already knew her. She was an intern in the DA's office when I was a prosecutor there.
Oh, wow.
And if you ask her, she'll tell you her name was Mary Farias back then. And I still have one of our lists of the people in the DA's office at that time that's got her name on it is Mary Farias as an intern. But I'd known her a long time. But we got, she became district judge, and we got to be very good friends. And she understood the need for some things that would be different too. And I can still remember the day she called me and said, I just came back from a seminar, and there is a program that we need to start, and I want you to be part of this to help me start it. And then she told me about it, and I said, I'm there. So, we've been talking about finding an alternative, doing something different for years, and you're telling me we've got it. I'm in.
As a drug court judge.
Yeah. Well, not yet.
Not yet.
This is starting the drug court. This is 2003.
Oh, yeah. So this is like 4 years fully before.
So we got, actually probably 2002 is when we actually started talking. 2003 was the formative time when we're trying to put things together, going and looking at other courts, going to Dallas to see how they were running their drug court program, because they had a pretty good setup up there already.
So you studied other systems.
So we studied other systems and then copied a lot of what they were doing and took our first client in January 2004.
Well, Judge Roman has always been very forward-thinking. I have a lot of respect for her. She was a district court judge when I came in. Fun fact, she was the last elected district judge who was able to run for a position as a district attorney. She actually got to run for DA. She didn't win, but she put up a great campaign. It was very short-lived. Her campaign was very shortened for some reason. I can't recall what it was, but in those days,
I can help you out.
Yeah. Well, she did not have to leave the bench in order to run for DA, which is not the case today. Yeah. So what was the reason that her election was truncated?
Because she wasn't the original candidate for that spot. It was Judge Mike Machado from the 227th District Court.
That's when he passed.
Judge Machado passed away.
Yes.
And the Democrats wanted someone to fill that spot. So some of the people in higher positions went and talked to Judge Roman, and next thing you know, she's the candidate.
She's candidate for DA. Here's another fun fact, something I neglected to mention early on when we started. You, Ernie Glenn, are the very first judge on this podcast.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It is our 54th episode, so 53 episodes we haven't had a judge.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you.
Absolutely, we're honored.
So anyway, we started a program, and we're in the learning process. I wouldn't advise anybody to start it exactly the way we did, because we had not had training from the National Association yet to really get into our minds the things that we needed to know to make it work better. We didn't do that until the next year. Well, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't 2004, but until after we had been doing this for several months.
And the program you're talking about is a drug court.
A drug court. Yes, it was a drug court program.
Yes.
We started the felony drug court January 2004. We didn't actually get training for the National Association of Drug Court Professionals until after that. But we started going to all these different trainings and learning the things how we were supposed to be doing things. And we had to restructure our program. We had to change the way we were sanctioning, the way we were doing pretty much everything.
Well, you have been the drug court judge since 2004.
2007.
2000. Okay, so what?
Because Mary ran the drug court for the first year or so. Then Judge Tessa Herr took over after that, and she ran it until they appointed me, and I took over in October of 2007.
Okay, that makes sense. And I first ran in 2008, so that timeline makes sense.
Yeah, that's exactly, because you came in not too long after I'd been there.
Yes,
but anyway, if for someone who wants to really start a specialty program, it's good to get the training first, so you know the basics of what you need to know, and knowing the best practices, what really works and what doesn't.
Well, let's talk about. Okay, so let's first talk about what specifically is a specialty court. What is it? What is a drug court? For those that don't know,
a drug court itself is a court that incorporates everything that we've got in the criminal justice system to work together.
Collaboratively, the DA's office, the defense attorneys, the probation office, and under a judge that's in charge of the program and makes the final decisions. And that includes needing to have counselors that are working with you and working with the clients, rather, and reporting to you as to what is going on with them. We have case managers that work with them with their special needs every day, and also are a good sounding board for them. And probation officers that are trained a little bit differently from what the old school probation officer is. They're trained to handle things from the point of view of knowing that there are a lot of needs and that these clients have, and almost all of them have suffered some sort of trauma, some to a great degree, some lesser, but it still has an effect on them, and we have to be trauma informed in order to handle all those things. But it's the DA is no longer there saying, I want to put you in prison. The DA is there saying, I want you to be successful in this program. Right.
And whether it's for the same reason that the defense attorney wants it to happen, I don't know. But it's and it probably depends on the individual. Whether it's for the purpose of that's one less case I'll see returning on my docket because you're not going to get in trouble again, or if it's for the purpose that I really do care about what happens to some of these people, it doesn't matter.
So these are folks that get arrested for a felony offense, right? You're a felony drug court judge. People think of felonies, right? And I ask folks all the time, right? What do you think are the most arrests that come in that we see in the court system as a felony trial court judge? And you always get responses that are the more violent type crimes. Oh,
sure.
And I always tell them, if you have to pick a category of offense, what is an offense that we see the most? I would have to say, in my opinion, that it would be possession of a controlled substance, a drug case. Not necessarily something that is immoral in and of itself. There other issues exist where we end up calling that particular offense, possessing a drug, as a crime, as a felony, because in our system here in Texas, any possession under a gram being like a sugar packet, right, a packet of sweet and low or whatever, anything less than that is a state jail felony, which is the lowest level of felony case. But what we're talking about here is you're looking at folks that are on probation, and they could be anybody. They could be charged with any type of offense, but they're on probation where the referring court has said this person should get probation. They shouldn't go to prison, and we're going to input them as part of that condition of probation into this felony drug court, which is overseen by you.
Correct.
Okay, so they're on probation. It's a very strenuous program. You want to tell us a little bit about the requirements for somebody who's in it?
It is. And let me expand upon what you said about the most common offenses.
Yes.
Because it goes a little bit beyond that, because you're right. Possession of drug offenses and some delivery cases, whatever they are, possession with intent to deliver, they tend to be the most numerous. Driving while intoxicated cases fall into that category too. And this is where it becomes a little difficult for people to understand that alcohol is a drug just like heroin and methamphetamine are drugs. They affect your brain and they affect the way you act,
yes,
just like these other drugs do. People sometimes don't want to accept that fact. The other category is anybody who commits an offense, and the substance use disorder is a big part of the reason why they did it.
The underlying cause.
There are a lot of the underlying cause.
Yes.
So that might be a burglary case. It might be an assault case. And, there are a lot of different circumstances where these things happen. Mm-hmm. But anyway, they get to come to drug court. Well, say they get to. They don't. They sometimes come kicking and screaming, but they'd rather do that than go to prison. Mm-hmm. They get to come to drug court, and we put them through a lot of requirements. They're going to see me in court every week. I'll probably see them around, seeing their case managers too, because we're all in the same office area. But they'll see me in court every week when they first start. They're going to get started going to counseling. They're going to go to 3 groups and 1 individual counseling session every week. Mm-hmm. They're going to see a probation officer every week.
That's phase 1.
This is phase 1.
Yeah.
This is where they first start. They're going to see a case manager every week. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to call a phone number that's the urinalysis line. They call it the UA hotline amongst them.
Mm-hmm. Every day,
that
right?
They have to call every single day, and they don't know which day they're going to have to test. It's all set up by a computer algorithm. So every single day of the week, it doesn't matter if it's Christmas, if it's New Year, is it Sunday, they have to call that UA line. That's one of the things that's required.
Yes.
And they're going to be tested multiple times a month. They also are subject to being tested when they show up at counseling, when they show up in court. So there's a likelihood they're going to be tested at least as often, and generally probably more often, but at least as often as the National Association best practices says that we need to be testing, which is at least twice a week. It's on an average.
And the reason for that, you have some drugs that start metabolizing immediately, right? You have cocaine could be in the system for 48 hours, but you can't really tell when that was taken. Not all drugs are like marijuana that are in the system for a long time. Some of these drugs, the body pretty much metabolizes them.
It's an accountability thing, and
yes.
There are some. And it varies, from drug to drug. I mean, most of them are going to be in your system for a number of days or a week. It depends upon the person in some cases too. And we've found that even with alcohol that we can get a valid drug test a week later. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's assuming that they really did tell the truth that it was a week ago. Mm-hmm. But
and that's a specific type of test, right?
That's a specific type of test for ETG and ethyl glucuronide and ethyl sulfate.
Yes.
So those are markers or metabolites that would tell us that somebody, if you get both of those for sure, that tell you that somebody drank alcohol.
Yes.
So we look at things like that, and those are things to hold people accountable. And they don't like it, especially at first. Later on, they might. But getting back to our setup.
So what you do, you're putting them on a schedule.
We've got them on a schedule.
Yes.
We expect them to follow that schedule. We don't necessarily expect them to stop using right away, because some people will. A lot of them won't.
Right.
And I can give you examples of how that works out. But some people, even giving them a chance to get away from using the drugs and alcohol, just can't, and they have to go to a residential treatment. So we do deal with that sometimes too. But we tried, with a lot of people, we tried to give them a chance to see if they can stop using drugs. And this is where the sanctioning process comes in, because they may not be able to stop right now because they are addicted. But one thing they can do is they can show up in court. Another thing they can do is they can see their probation officer when they're supposed to. They can see their case manager when they're supposed to. They can go do their UAs as required. They can call the line every day. They can go to their counseling sessions. Those are things that they're perfectly capable of doing. And we'll give them time to get that schedule down, learn what they're doing, and then if they decide that they want to miss counseling or something else, then it's time to start throwing in some sanctioning, tell them, well, you can't miss those things. We've had guys come to us smoking marijuana 5 or more times a day. We've had people that are using methamphetamine daily.
Wow.
Sometimes multiple times daily. Heroin addicts, they're using every day, some of them multiple times a day just so that they don't get sick. So, one of the things to try to get them to the point is, well, if you're smoking weed 5 times a day, can you cut that down to once?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, you think you can go for a day or 2 without using?
Moderate.
And then you made it 2 days. So how does that feel? I said, well, it really feels pretty good. I didn't know I could do that. So, well, let's try a week. And they make a week. And then next thing you know, they made it a month. And once they make it a month, they said, you made it a whole month. Now what's stopping you?
That's really good.
So
That's really good, yeah.
So let's go.
All right, so when you say sanctions, right, so somebody is not doing something in accordance with the rules that y'all had set up in the drug court, what do sanctions look like? First time, and then I know they're progressive over time.
Sanctions can be various things. It's starting with admonishments, telling them this is something that you need to do, mm-hmm. and going to essays that we want them to write on a specific topic, whatever it is that they're felling in at a particular time. Mm-hmm. Then we can go to community service, then we go to more community service. We do a combination of things, sometimes an essay and community service. One of the sanctions that this is something we don't use until it's absolutely necessary. We call it a TH30, and it's named after a former drug court graduate. Mm-hmm. That because this is the only way we got him to complete the program. Told him that for the next 30 days, you're going to come to court every week. He had made it up to second or third phase. I don't remember which, and what's going to happen is you be ready to go to jail for a weekend
at any time.
Well, when you come to court,
yeah,
at any time during that 30 days, you're going to come to court every week. And the week the court was going to be on, at that time, was probably on Thursdays. So they come to court on Thursday, and the point was for them to do everything perfectly. You can't miss a counseling session. You can't forget to call the UA line. You can't miss any of your appointments at all. You need to be on time. And if you do that, then you work your way out of going to jail. So what I'm telling you is you're going to jail 4 weekends in a row. Right now.
Right.
But I'm going to give you a chance to pull that back. You've got the keys to the jail.
Yes.
So you decide, do you want to go to jail? If you don't, then do everything. Just like all these other people are doing everything, and they're not doing this sanction like you are.
And so sanctions have to be particularized, right? Like one of the things I've learned, because I'm the founder of the Felony Mental Health Court program now. And one of the things I've learned is a jail sanction might be something that really is effective with one particular defendant, but may not with others. There may be some people that are very comfortable going to jail, spending a weekend there. So there you got to find other ways to provide sanctions, especially at that particular stage.
That can be true. One thing we do know, though, is that locking people up because they're using drugs when they're addicted to them doesn't change anything at all. They'll just come back out and do the same thing again.
So what you're doing is you're trying to change the behavior.
We are changing the behavior.
Right.
So, I can tell you when we have someone who's been using drugs every day, and that person can come in and tell me, I haven't used it all. I didn't use Monday, I didn't use Tuesday, and I didn't use yesterday.
That's
I have
huge.
not used today.
Yeah.
And we'll say, that's fantastic. And everybody gives them a big round of applause.
Yes.
So that's great. You made it to that point. Now, what can we do with this?
Yeah.
And you can see the big smile on their face, like, wow, I accomplished something, and I'm being complimented for it, and which they should be, because it is a big accomplishment.
When you're saying they get an applause, there is that sense of we're in this together within the specialty court, right?
There is.
The participants are there to support each other. All the folks that are working within the court, like yourself, you're there to cheer these folks on.
Right.
Support. Which is a big part. That's a big aspect of why it is that people end up in prison or in jail in the first place. They're lacking support. So here you're bringing in folks together, apart from all the things that you're doing, but you're giving them support to grow, to learn. Mm-hmm. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sanctions are a necessary thing, but it's not the primary tool. I mean, we started talking about it first, but it's actually the positive reinforcement that really makes the difference.
Right.
Whether it's a pat on the back, people clapping for them, or if we have a drawing, sometimes we maybe have some gift cards to give away or tickets for the Alumni Association barbecue that they're doing, something that they wouldn't otherwise have.
So in general, the carrots are more effective than the sticks.
The carrot is more effective than the stick.
Yes.
And that's where the real changes come along. Now, the other things, the jail sanctions, when somebody's just refusing to do something, that's where those come in, because those are behavioral things. Those are not the substance use disorder or the mental health disorder issues. Those are behavioral, and those are things that they are going to be punished for.
Yes.
So and that that works too. And I can tell you that I've had people who have gone through those sanctions come out and say, Judge Glenn, thank you for doing that. I needed to go to jail. I needed to sit down and think about things, and I understand what I need to do, and then they go do it. They go do what they need to do.
In my classes, and whenever I give public speeches, I speak to other groups, we talk about philosophies related to sentencings. And I think with the drug court concept, with the specialty court idea, the issue there is rehabilitation, accountability, trying to break that cycle of folks that just keep coming in and out of the prison system. How effective is a drug court for something like that?
It's very effective. Drug court has proved to be the most effective way to deal with cases in the criminal justice system to reduce recidivism. Anything you do that works positively with that person, whether it's counseling or a good probation program, will help. But when you put it all together, you get exponential results. It just works so much better. The way these programs are set up are heavy-handed at the front, but as they're accomplishing goals, we move them up to phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and then they graduate, and then we have an aftercare just to make sure that that they're really in the place that we think they are.
Yes.
To give them about another 6 months to watch them and keep them doing UAs and things. But I don't want anybody listening to this going away thinking, man, how can they do that for all this time? Because they're with us for close to 2 years before they finish the program.
Well, in a felony case,
they don't have to.
Yeah, right. It's something that they are choosing to be a part of.
For the first, they don't have to do it first of all, but for the first 90 days, they've got this heavy load, and if they're doing really well at the end of that 90-day period and they satisfied all the criteria, we move them up to a higher level where they don't have as many counseling sessions. They don't see their case manager every week. They don't see the probation officer every week. And it gets lighter and lighter. The load gets lighter and lighter as they go up.
Well, which is what they have to look forward to, right? Things are getting better. And so probation for a felony case, any kind of supervision, you got to be on probation for at least 2 years. Somebody gets probation, somebody gets deferred. For any felony, it's minimum 2 years. So what happens if somebody gets a 10-year probation set and then a referral to drug court?
It depends. Because this program was set up by the district courts way back when. And one of the things was, if you finish this program and you've graduated and you're looking good at the end of the program, we're going to give you an early termination.
Right.
So you've got a 10-year probation. You finish 2 years of it. You're getting your probation terminated because you did a really good job and you changed your life and you're doing some good things.
So it's more of a carrot then.
Even a bigger carrot. There are the little carrots in there too. Things like getting an occupational driver's license that you don't have to pay for because your drug court, that fee is waived and they don't even have to file a petition for it. It's there are little things like that can kind of help out too. And then the way you can get your record sealed at the end of it, even if you're on regular probation.
Yes.
There are various things that are carrots that will help people along or give them motivation to do things a certain way. But at the end of the day, it turns out that the real motivation becomes that they feel good. Their family accepts them back. Again, a lot of them have been estranged from their families. Their families want them around. They've got good jobs. I mean, how many times have I heard, I've had this job now for the past 2 years, and now I have my own house. I'm buying my own house. I've got my own car. My wife, I'm married, or I've got my husband. We've got kids, and they're going to school and they're doing well.
Yes. And with that thought, let's do a quick Q&A break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This is Q&A with Judge Ron Rangel. Submit your question today at beyondthegavelpodcast.com.
Welcome to the Q&A break. Let's take a question from one of our listeners, Ernie. This is going to be for you and I to answer together. What rehabilitation efforts have you seen help people the most? What do you think, Judge?
Drug court, specialty courts. This is the effort that helps people the most.
Yes.
Out of everything I have ever seen.
Figure out what the underlying issues are. You said it really well a bit ago as it relates to folks that may have a drug, right? So we think about drug addiction is an underlying cause of crime. But what is the underlying cause of that drug addiction?
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
And so there you're getting into the case by case. You actually got to get into somebody's life. You can't treat people like a number if you want to have a truly effective criminal justice system. Now, obviously, in an urban area like Bexar County, we got over 2 million folks that live here that reside in Bexar County. It's difficult to have a system in place that financially is feasible, that we can handle as a system financially, to figure out what those underlying causes are that create some of these issues that then relate into higher levels of crime.
And that's one of the reasons we do that ACE questionnaire early on, so we can kind of start homing in on those particular issues.
Right.
Because that's a lot of it. And that also explains a lot of the mental illness that we're dealing with.
Yes. And now, obviously, what we're talking about is different for violent folks, right? People that are committing violent crimes for other purposes, other reasons. We're not talking about those folks, right?
No.
We're talking about generally people that are not violent people, that we're not thinking of incapacitating to protect our society. We're talking about people that we know can be rehabilitated, that we know are not committing violent crimes. And so how would you change that? In my mind, to assess the way you assess in the drug court, what if we were to do that at intake at the district attorney's office? If we could figure out a way to have these assessments done to say, if somebody needs, let's say, they're in custody for a crime related to a drug addiction issue, but they haven't been officially gone through the court system yet. Let's say that a condition of whatever bail is, whatever it is that they can use to get out of custody while their case is pending, nonviolent folks, then this type of an assessment that you're talking about would be great to begin this type of treatment before they ever enter into the actual courtroom.
Oh, you're 100% right. And there are a multitude of studies out there that show that say the sooner you can get somebody engaged into a treatment program to start doing things differently, to start controlling their substance use disorder for one, and become stable in their mental health, the more likely it is that they're going to have long-term success.
And to do it as a condition of bond.
Yeah.
Meaning,
if you can start then, you've got a foot up on the competition.
Right. Right. Thank you for that question. Keep them coming. We appreciate the input here at Beyond the Gavel. You can text Beyond the Gavel anytime or reach out through our website, beyondthegavelpodcast.com. Now let's head back to the show.
This is Q&A with Judge Ron Rangel. Submit your question today at beyondthegavelpodcast.com.
Welcome back. I'm talking to Judge Ernie Glenn, having a great conversation about specialty courts and the drug court in particular. I mean, and if somebody wants to see the things that you're describing, the best thing they could do is go to a drug court graduation. Mm-hmm. I have been in those drug court graduations oftentimes where I'm literally brought to tears to hear the stories and the struggles and to see where folks have come from. All walks of life are affected by somebody that has that type of an issue, right? A disorder. And so I think that is a good sense of that feeling of togetherness that you're talking about and the support system. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other folks within that court, right? So we know you're the judge. And for folks to know, I think we have like 16 specialty courts now, something like that in the courts, misdemeanor and felony courts in Bexar County. We have some specialty court judges on the civil side, but these are all judges that handle their own dockets, right? These are judges that handle caseloads, and the specialty court stuff is a little extra that they do. You're the only dedicated specialty court judge that we have in Bexar County. Is that right?
You're right.
Yeah, and I think you have 200 participants at any given time?
That's right.
What does that look like for you? What's that experience?
Well, having been involved in running this court full time I thought it was the best way to do it when we first started, but I really believe that now because it's different. Having been a prosecutor and a defense attorney for all the years I was and trying all the cases I'd done and going through all the routine that we do.
It's an adversarial system.
I felt like I could step into a bench and actually be a judge doing that regular stuff because I already knew it.
Right.
I'd already been trained. Coming into drug court was completely different because I had to become an expert on things that I wasn't an expert on. I had to learn about your analysis and what you're supposed to look at in those results. I had to learn how that worked. I had to learn what the best practices are. Mm-hmm. When do you sanction? When do you not? Why the carrot, of course, is more powerful than the stick. It was one of the early concepts that were taught. Mm-hmm. But you got to learn, how do you do that? I mean, when do you decide what's appropriate at a particular time? And I kind of got into that a little bit earlier.
You're very specialized.
Don't put somebody in jail because they're addicted and they're using, or don't sanction them, basically. But I said put in jail, but don't sanction them because they're using. Sanction them because they're not doing the things they can do.
Right. There's a true redirection. And what you're talking about is specialized training. You are a specialist as a type of a judge.
Right.
And that specialized training, the specialized experience is very significant. And it's something that is a full-time job.
It is. Yeah. Well, you have to learn all the ins and outs of how do things work. What is it that the probation officer does and how should that job be done? Mm-hmm. How should the case manager work? I mean, when we first started getting case managers in drug court, we didn't have case managers in drug court, and I had to do a lot of research and going to National Association conferences and going to specific courses to see what that was supposed to look like or what people thought it was supposed to look like, and kind of put that together so that we could figure out what a case manager is supposed to do as opposed to a probation officer. I have no idea how many courses I went to that had to do with counseling to learn what it is that counselors do and how is it that they are able to work with certain people and gain their trust. Trust is a huge deal in the program. Most of the people that we've got, people in our program average about 9 prior cases, or some a whole lot more than that.
Yeah, that's the average.
The average.
Yeah. Somebody's been arrested 9 times.
About 9 times. They've been through the system about 9 times, and they don't like the police, and they don't like the DA, and they don't like the judges, and they don't like any of the system at all. They hate the jail. Right. And somebody's got to gain their trust. And often it's going to be a counselor, but you got to learn what are the counseling techniques that are used, how is that supposed to work, and how is it that they're going to gain the trust and work with these folks.
Because those are the hats that you wear as a felony drug court judge, right? As a specialty court, you wear those hats. You are a therapist, you are case manager, you are probation officer. You are all the things that you're describing. You have to have a part of that in terms of what you do as a judge.
Right. And I'm certain if there are a lot of those jobs I couldn't do as well as the people who do them do. I mean, I can't do what a licensed professional counselor does.
Yes.
I know that, but at least I know what they're doing. I know how it's supposed to work and how it's supposed to look, and I know how to ask the questions and get the answers that we need when we have staffing, so we can determine what is the next step with a particular person. But but that's one of the things that you got to know. And if you're a trial court judge and you've got a full docket all the time, you don't have time to go and learn all these different things, to go to the seminars that I've been to and all the other different programming that I've gotten over the years.
Which is what I talk about, right? I mean, I am 5 years. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary of creating the Felony Mental Health Court. I will never be that perfect, experienced, all knowledgeable felony mental health court judge, because that is sort of like a side project in a way. I mean, I take it super seriously. I love doing it. It's something that's very special to me. But I'm also trying to manage a docket, trying to go through jury trials and rule effectively and study the law as it relates to the issues that come up in cases and trials. Managing a docket is do it every day, right? We're dealing with different types of cases. Specialty court work is just so specialized. It's very difficult for me to think that you could do great at both. Now, you could have a good temperament to do both, right?
You could.
But as it relates to getting the experience, the knowledge, the education, and the training, the ability to filter through all that other stuff, the models are so different. Trial courts, we're looking at adversarial models, 2 sides trying to win a certain argument. Where here, nobody wins unless a participant is truly successful. How do y'all decide who is it? How is it that y'all decide who is it that is fortunate enough? Because obviously, I threw this out. We have 1,008 arrests average per week in Bexar County, right? With some upswings and downswings, 1,008. Who decides the lucky 200 folks? And I do call them lucky. There's a big part of fortune that goes into this.
Yeah.
Who decides that these are the individuals, knowing that 53% of those that get arrested, America in the United States, for any type of a charge, drug addiction issues, mental health diagnosis, who decides the few that actually get the benefit of the specialty court program?
Well, luckily, we get to do that in the felony drug court. I mean, obviously, you are one of the judges that sends cases to us, along with the other district court judges, says, is this person going to be appropriate for your program?
Yes.
So we have to have criteria for that. One of the things that we do to make sure that they meet our criteria is a really thorough screening. And that screening involves an addiction severity type of index. It's something put out by Texas Christian University, the TCU screening, which is pretty specialized to determine what level they are. And it's based a lot upon their answers, although people are able to fudge their answers, but we can often tell when
you can see through that, right? You can generally.
I mean, we're supposed to go by what they answer,
Right?
And sometimes it takes a little cajoling to get the answer out of them that we know they should be saying or giving us. But that's one of the things we look at. We do a mental health assessment to see where they are I should probably call it a mental health screening. We do a mental health screening to see what they've got that might show that they have a mental health issue, so it can point out things like PTSD, a bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, some very different things. And then we look at some other criteria. You've got to be an adult, first of all, in order for this to
18,
happen.
or actually 17, right?
Right.
Yeah,
17.
in Texas.
And you have to, we don't take anybody that has a sexual offense, sexual assault conviction of any sort. We don't take those because we've got so many people who have trauma, and so many of them have been sexually abused when they were kids. So we will not take anybody that's a sexual abuser at some point in their life.
So Chapter 62, anybody involving,
Right?
any offense.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah, we feel like it would not be appropriate. I think there should be a program for people like that, but it shouldn't be mixed with this. We shouldn't be mixing the perpetrators with the victims.
Well, which is sort of like having a real drug dealer type person, right?
Also disqualified.
Yes.
Yes. That's another disqualification. Someone who is a really, truly drug dealer, and surprisingly, a lot of them are very honest about that when they're questioned enough. We cannot take them because that's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yes.
We will not take anybody who is actively in a gang. Now, if somebody has been in the gang in the past and they really are not a member of the gang anymore, and we can at least be pretty satisfied that that's true, then we can give them a chance. But if they're still active gang members, if they're active gang members, they're doing things that are illegal in general, but they're also dealing drugs and involved in this world that they're not going to get away from.
They're basically taking advantage of people.
It's very difficult to be successful with them because they're not going to change.
Right.
They may actually on the surface look like they're changing, but underneath they're not. They're still out there doing some drug deals. They're still out there hanging out with their friends and doing, gang banging.
Right. You're trying to protect the folks in the program.
Right. So that leaves us with quite a few other people, though. Even if we're going to disqualify some because they don't meet these standards or because they have disqualifications, rather, we're still booked up 100% almost all the time. And we do have some people finishing the program and doing a termination that opens the door for somebody new to come in. So we've gotten to the point where we've got a turnover that's enough that we can almost always take somebody new now. Once in a while, we get to the point where we're completely so saturated with cases that we cannot take anymore. And I have to, of course, send out a notice letting people know
I've gotten those emails.
We're
at capacity.
We're at capacity. We can't handle anymore. Our case managers are overloaded. Our probation officers are overloaded, and they just can't help. They can't handle anymore.
One of the things that I hear consistently is at the graduations is the fact that folks really feel very appreciative of being in that program. So let's talk a little bit about the lasting results. They always say, "Oh, I thank God," or I thank this judge for making the referral," because the referrals come from the courts. The courts generally get the referrals from the parties or from family members that then communicate with the parties, that then communicate to the court, sort of like a little pipeline in a sense. And we're talking about the things that you look at when you bring folks into the program. I can imagine that there's a lot more people that try to get into the program than what there's space for. What kind of lasting results do you see?
The results are really good. It's I look at the population that we work with as coming through our doors as 100% recidivist, because they've been in the system over and over and over again, and nothing has broken. Yeah. Nothing has broken that. I mean, we've got people with SID numbers that go back to the 6 digits. We've even had a couple of five digits, which would be back in the 70s, maybe 80s, back in that period, and others who are much newer. But what I'm getting at is they're just habitually committing crimes, one thing or another, and a lot of it has to do with substance use disorder.
Right. And one of the conversations I have with my students in class and with folks out in the community, people have this concept when they think that somebody is coming before you as a judge, that they are this hardened, mean-spirited, evil, negative, whatever it is, how you want to describe it. The reality of it is most people are not. Most people are just everyday folks that get caught up into these struggles. You look at them and you see them at the bottom. They are at the lowest point in their life. And that is when you're talking about a person who's not necessarily a bad-hearted person, somebody who is just suffering through whatever it is that they're going through, and as a result of that are involved in the criminal justice system, you got a real opportunity to help some folks. Now, here's the question. What is the cost, right? We talk about the cost, and we know that a lot of times when we're dealing with folks in the criminal justice system, we're dealing with sort of an assembly line concept in a way. People are coming in, people are coming out, people are coming in, sort of like a ROTE type, ROTE type of experience where you're going through the filtering, you're parceling out, you go to jail, you get probation, you get deferred, right? You're going through all this system. What does the cost look like when you're spending these types of resources and this type of energy and this type of time to go into folks that the rest of them that are not involved in specialty courts going through? Yeah,
it costs a lot of money. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. To have the staff that works with these people and works with our folks, handles the things that they need to do. Their salaries have to be paid. Yeah, we got a facility that's paid for. Counseling has to be paid, all these different things. But we've had evaluations done by evaluators that do drug court evaluations nationally. People like MPC Research, which is they probably do the gold standard, or one of the two that does the gold standard, and they've done evaluations on us, I think 2-3 times, and joined up with another really good group for another evaluation to tell us what things look like. And their conclusion after doing a multi-year study was that our drug court program saves just under $10,000 per person than going through the regular routes of the criminal justice system. Savings.
Yes. And that's over their lifetime?
Right.
Yeah. And there's some statistics that I've read in text that reference folks that get arrested. There's a lot of repeat offenders, right? And so you're dealing with that population. 70% of crime, 70% of felonies are committed by 7% of offenders.
Exactly.
So what you're doing is you're focusing on that 7% of offenders. And as a result of that, crime overall is going down. And not talking about necessarily the financial cost, because that's what we're talking about now. But on top of that, what's the benefit to society to have less crime as a result, to actually hitting that underlying cause in a way that, in the future, 75% long-term success rate of somebody not getting rearrested. What does that look like in terms of numbers and savings? That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's a huge thing. The fact that babies are being born not addicted to drugs,
yes,
is a huge savings to the medical system and
what does that mean?
To the system in general.
Yes,
the fact that somebody's working and paying taxes and taking care of their family, not expecting someone else to raise their kids for them, and have to pay for that. I mean, the consequences of not doing this are so vast that when you're doing it, working with this population, it's a huge savings. Just exactly what you're saying. It makes a huge difference. And there are examples of people, getting back to what you said about a lot of good people out there who just have difficult upbringings. They're in a difficult place in life, and if you give them a chance, they can change. Well, you learn to love these guys because they really are regular people. Once you get past that facade that they have they're regular people. There's one of our gentlemen as a graduate who now he's been a peer for a number of years, coming back and helping others. And he was a hardcore gangbanger, and he's got tattoos all over the place. And he has become a hard worker, 12-step supporter. He goes and gives speeches everywhere, and comes whenever he has some time off. He comes to court and says, "Can I help you guys with anything?"
Yes.
The guy's name is Eric, and I love this guy to death. But if somebody just looked at him on paper and looked at his background, his criminal record, they think this is the worst person in the world.
Yes.
And he's not.
Right.
He's a great guy. I mean, I see him come in, I give him an abrazo just like anybody else that I care for,
Well, which is kind of what we talked about, which is what I talked about initially in this episode. You're giving folks that are at the lowest point in their lives an opportunity to mentor, because you do have some sort of mentorship program in the drug court.
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
How does that work?
People who graduate, we ask them if they, certain ones, if they would come back and that they would mentor some of our people who are starting out the program.
Like a coach in a way.
Yeah, kind of like a coach.
Yeah.
And we've got people who've been doing this for a while. Typically, they're part of the Alumni Association, which are the people who are graduated. Some of them have already been terminated. They're off probation, and they still want to be part of this and be part of helping. And like this guy, Eric, I told you about, he's part of that. And he's been off probation for, I don't know, a couple of years, I guess, but he keeps coming around. He wants to help. And they meet with the new people. They talk to them. They give them their phone number. Say if you're having a hard time, you need some help, you just need to talk to somebody, give me a call. I'll be there for you. But they give them some advice on how they can do things in drug court, what they need to do, and what will make it easier for them to get through. So it's the peers, the mentor peers that are coming back and giving to somebody what was given to them by mentors before.
Right.
You talked about mentoring earlier on with your dad, talked about your dad, and that's kind of what they're doing. They're giving them good advice. They're giving them guidance.
Right.
And I think that's made a big difference too.
Absolutely, on both ends, right?
Yeah, on
with
both
folks
ends.
in the program and folks that have left.
Sure. I mean, you've obviously heard the same things that I have from people that do 12-step meetings.
Yes.
So doing the 12-step meetings is great. Working with a sponsor is great. Being a sponsor yourself is even better. That helps you support your recovery. Giving it back helps you support your recovery better than getting it, and it just makes a huge difference.
There's always statistics that we hear about related to somebody leaving the court system, somebody getting off probation, somebody maybe completing successfully the drug court program. What sort of resources are in place to help folks to continue on 2, 3, 5 years down the road?
There are things out there like the Center for Healthcare Services has ongoing programs for people to take care of their mental health issues and get medications, the things that they need to.
That's a county funded.
Work with that.
Yeah. Right. The county pays for that.
Right.
Yeah.
And they've got services that people don't generally know about. They've got case managers that work with people too. If you stay connected to their system, they've got pretty much everything that you need to help you keep going.
So if somebody can't find a job, let's say,
well,
then they try to figure out why. And then they help them. This is how you get closed for the interviews. This is how you get your ID or driver's license in order to be able to get that job. This is how you figure out transportation issues. And they connect them with resources,
right,
in a way that helps them. So that continues on after the program.
Yeah, it's still there. And I always tell our graduates or people when they terminate that if you have some problems, if you're struggling, if anything is going on that you feel like you need somebody to talk to, then come see us.
Yes.
Yes. As long as we're still here, you're welcome to come talk to us. We can set an appointment. If you want to talk to me, I'll set an appointment and I'll talk to you, and we can discuss things. Maybe I can give you some good advice, maybe not. If you want to meet with your case manager, that person that was your case manager before, or you want to meet with the court manager, Diana Samaron, then let us know. We'll take time to do that, and we do have people come back.
Right. And here's the advantage to that too, is that you have longevity. You're not on the ballot. You're not an elected judge. You're appointed. You've been there 18 years?
18 years.
Yeah, 18 years you've been doing the same job. You've seen a lot of different judges, right? I'm the longest serving criminal judge as it relates to the type of judges that could refer cases to you. And you've been there before I have been there. We have seen a lot of judges come through the system with these wave elections that we've had in Bexar County. What are the advantages, I think, for a program like this? You can continue doing the work that you do. You're developing that longevity, that relationship that is so important with these participants.
It is an important thing, and it's important for them to know that you're there, for one thing. And I just the funny thing is the people who come back sometimes just want to come back and let us know that they're doing great.
That's important to some people.
We just had a lady come by. I think it was last week. She was on our dual diagnosis docket. She is now she just started as a bus driver with VIA.
Yeah.
She was so excited about that.
That's beautiful.
She was thrilled, beyond words. And she's been on probation for years. She wanted us to know, though, I'm still doing well. Look at this. And I've gotten these opportunities because I went through drug court.
Productive member of society.
I wouldn't have had that before. But the main advantage is, and I'm, I hope I'm humble much as I can be.
If somebody knows you, you are.
But
you are,
I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
I've known what I'm doing for quite a few years, but I've gotten better and better at it because I've learned more and more, and I've seen what can work better than what we might have been doing before. We have instituted policies in our program, that changed what was being done, to the point where the National Association has picked up some of our things and made that part of the best practices that they're doing.
You become a model.
Become a model for drug courts throughout the country, especially courts throughout the country. And it's pretty gratifying to see that, because I have this great staff that really works hard and comes up with ideas, and we're able to flesh those out together and make things work better, that it's something that's recognized as working by other courts too. Longevity is the big deal in knowing what you're doing. If you're doing something long enough and you really like what you're doing, which I do, and you're willing to put out the effort to learn everything that you can about it, then it makes a huge difference. You become a professional at what you're doing. I'm a professional, especially court judge. And, I've been blessed with the opportunity to do that. And I feel pretty good about it, because I've got, I don't know, I've seen thousands of people, but we've got, I can't even tell you how many graduates at this point. I know it's over 1,000 that I've seen graduate, and most of those people are doing really well. They're appreciated by their families and by their community. It's a good feeling.
Absolutely.
It's just gratifying to see people change.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I feel it. In terms of what I do. I come across folks all the time that come up and thank me for certain things, and you're just thinking, I was just doing my job, but the reality of it is the little things that we do and how we conduct ourselves make a big difference to folks. It's really a big deal. And so I had an opportunity to go by and visit the courtroom not too long ago, a couple months back, I think. And I really got a lot out of it. I really got to see sort of a lot of the structure and a lot of the folks that are out there. It was a great experience for me. Yeah. I think every judge needs to get out there, because your courtroom is not in the courthouses. It's not here. It's a different complex. And so I think it's necessary to have that when you're dealing with as many folks as you are. And you also want to make it convenient for people to get out there. You don't want them to have to spend the $30 around the courthouse.
No, they get free parking.
That's it. That's
but you know what they appreciate the most, though? It's not the free parking or anything else. It's whether it's case manager, whether it's me, a probation officer, when we see them in person, we can call them by first name. Mm-hmm. I have to get to know them, because some of the newer people, it's more difficult, but I can see someone sitting on the bench and waiting to see their case manager, and open the door and say, hey, Charles, how are you doing today? Or hey, Carlos, I just read the reports on you, and it was looking really good. Mm-hmm. And, they appreciate the fact that you know who they are. They're not 2024 CR 1964. I mean, right. They are a person.
They're human.
They're human.
I read somewhere that the most, probably one of the most important processes of the entire thing, one of the best carrots is a judge who recognizes them in a positive way. That's something that's something that they really generally look forward to, more so than a lot of other things.
And everybody I've ever met in drug court has a good side.
Yes.
Sometimes they make themselves very dislikable, but they've got this core good person of likability, and if you can get them to focus on that and shed the rest of that armor that they've got, then it comes out and all of a sudden people like them.
Everybody has positive attributes.
It's different, yeah.
Right, and if you have confidence in your positive attributes and you allow that to flourish, then you could be successful in whatever it is that you choose to do, right?
Exactly.
That's an important part of that.
Yeah, and I'm gratified too at the San Antonio employment community in general, Bexar County community in general, and the way that they're doing things, because in the early days it was hard for anybody to get a job. Now, I mean, we've got some people. I mean, there was a time that some of the companies out there wouldn't even think of hiring our people, and now they are. I mean, like I said, we got a young lady that's now a bus driver. VIA has opened their doors, allow people who have rehabilitated or who have proved themselves a chance to do something. And you know as well as, I mean, you know that I've got a couple of young men that became attorneys, and one of them came and spoke at our graduation a couple of years ago and made a big impression on people.
Great experience.
And that's, and somebody with that background you would have thought would never have a chance.
Right.
And yet they did it. They proved themselves. So things have changed, and I'm really happy that our folks can find better and better jobs now when they couldn't find anything before. I mean, you have no idea how often we sent somebody to Goodwill just so there was something that they might be able to do, and sometimes Goodwill could help them find some little job somewhere. But
it's got to be gratifying.
But now,
I've always felt that jobs are important for folks, right? People need to feel productive and, a part of society, a part of the positive fabric of society. So I think you give people that opportunity, you're going to go a long way.
Yeah, it is.
Well, Ernie, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Are there any last thoughts that you have for our listeners? Anything that comes to mind that you think folks should know?
Sure. I think that what we're doing with this felony drug court program, with having someone dedicated to run the program that doesn't have to run for election, that we should do more of that. And I think there should be someone that looks like me, my position. I mean, they don't not look like me physically, but someone that fills a role like this, handling the misdemeanor programs. And I wish we could have about 10 more of these positions of what I do for felony, because I haven't seen the latest numbers, but I know there was, last time I looked at numbers, there were probably about 25,000 or so people on probation in Bexar County, and the bigger majority of those were on felony probation, and I think it was about 17,000, but it's been a while since I actually checked the numbers. There are 17,000 people, and we know that substance use disorder and mental illness issues are some of the rampant things involved with those people, the ones who are not just plain violent offenders. How many of them could use a program like this? Because it's not just 200. I mean, that's just a drop in the bucket compared to what's out there. And I'm not saying every program has to be as intense as what ours is, because there are people with lesser risk needs scores that might not need something quite as intense as what we have, but they can still use some direction.
Well, when I was practicing, and even as a judge, I've had a lot of people come to me and say, I have a family member, son, daughter, whatever the situation, sister, sibling, brother, anything, and they would say they really need some sort of blank help, whatever that is. And I tell them, if they haven't been arrested, there's not a whole lot out there, right? So unfortunately, sometimes you got to get folks into the system to get them this type of help. And as a result of that, think of how many crimes have been committed where folks knew this person is having an episode, they're going through an issue, but because they don't have their medication, because we don't have health insurance, because we don't have some sort of support system in place, then they're going to commit those crimes. Numbers are going to go up. People are going to feel less safe. All the negative impacts to society. When the reality of it is, if we could do these types of things ahead of time, if we could provide these types of systems beforehand, that's really what drives the numbers up in the criminal justice system. Not necessarily folks that are violent. We know how to deal with those folks, but in terms of stopping crime in the future or doing something to increase the numbers in a way of those success stories. I think that's really the bottom line. That's where it comes down to. As long as we're just being reactive to crime, we're never going to really make a big bet. We got to do the things that you're doing. And Ernie, I got to give you props, seriously. And as a felony mental health court judge, I know that a lot of what we do in the system with specialty courts is based on your experience. I have a lot of folks that work with me that tell me this is how Judge Glenn does things. And when they tell me that, that means a lot to me. One of the things when I contacted the State Bar, when Alana and I were talking about creating this podcast, one of the things that we knew judges could not do was endorse others. But you work for Bexar County. You're not an elected person. You're not asking for money. So I can say we've been fortunate to have you in this county. You are going to be huge in terms of the legacy that you've created, and your shoes are going to be impossible to fill at some point. So I hope that day doesn't come too soon. I hope you continue doing what you're doing, because we're very fortunate to have you. Our community's fortunate to have the dedication that you provided to this county with this drug court.
Well, thank you. You are one of my bosses, and I appreciate that.
Always. Well, thank you. Well, that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and keep sending in those questions. Just text the judge to share your thoughts, your reviews, or your questions. We might just read yours on the next Q&A break. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another great guest. Until then, stay tuned.
You've been listening to Beyond the Gavel with Judge Ron Rangel. Join us in the next 2 weeks where we are educating the public and expanding mindsets. Head to our website, beyondthegavelpodcast.com, or your favorite podcast platform to subscribe to the latest episodes and updates.